Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about the Buzzard, and I want to honor your time, so I'm going to get straight to the point. Hey, you got to get one of these this week. I'm going to tell you why, but if you click off the video, just one thing you need to know, get a Buzzard this week. It's that simple. Let's talk about it. So this week, Bungie brought back the Buzzard. It's not brand new to Destiny 2. It was a ritual weapon, years ago, and it was pretty good back then. It wasn't phenomenal, but it was pretty good. Well, they finally brought it back in the form of a Nightfall drop, which means that in a few weeks, it's going to be available as an adept version of itself, which is great. But in the meantime, this is what we've got. Getting a decent one of these is easier than it's ever been. It's real simple. All you got to do, go to the Nightfall. You can even just farm the lowest tier version of it, no problem. And, I did the lowest tier version of it for about an hour and had 2 drop. Then I got some buds together and farmed on the higher difficulties, got a few more to drop. But listen, if you don't want to spend that much time farming Glassway, because that's what it is this week, is the Glassway Nightfall, which it's not the worst, but it still sucks. Hey, all you got to do is get 1 to drop, just 1. And then what you can do is you can come here to Zavala, come to his engram focusing section, and focus a Buzzard drop. It's going to be a little pricey. It costs about 20,000 Glimmer. For me, that's not a big deal. I've got a ton of legendary shards built up, so I can just go over to Rahul and trade my shards in for Glimmer. No problem. But 20,000 Glimmer and a Vanguard engram, and you can focus one of these as long as you've had just one of them drop. So it's pretty easy to get a decent one. It took me a couple of focuses, and I finally got a rangefinder roll that I was pretty satisfied with for the time being. But now that I've unlocked it, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's this week, next week, 3 weeks from now. If ever I'm compelled to say, hey, I wish I'd gotten a better Buzzard, I just come back to Zavala, I focus the drop, maybe I get the roll I'm after. Now, real quick, before we get into the stats, this is kind of a big deal, okay? I know a lot of people that kind of overlook sidearms, but let me hit you with some truth. Up until a few seasons ago, there were no adept sidearms in the game, not a single one. We had 5 adept hand cannons, 6 adept shotguns, 0 adept sidearms. As a sidearm enthusiast, I took that personal. So it was nice when Bungie started to finally recognize this and be like, oh crap, maybe we should make some adept sidearms. So they gave us the Forgiveness, which I think is a phenomenal sidearm. I love that gun. Then they gave us our first ever raid sidearm since Spire of Stars, which is like, back when my daughter was 1 year old or something. So now we have the Michael's Reverence, and that can be adept as well this week now that we have the Master Raids out. So we finally got an adept raid sidearm, and now Bungie says, okay, and then for the trifecta, let's give them a Nightfall adept sidearm. So it's about freaking time. We haven't had adept sidearms that can take adept mods until very recently, so we should probably take advantage of it now that they're here. Now let's talk about the Buzzard. Why are you going to want one of these? Is it worth the chase? Well, right out of the gate, it's kinetic, it's adaptive, okay? So in recent seasons, the Drang has been sort of the cream of the crop. It's been one of the best dueling sidearms in the game in the history of Destiny 2, and people are going after it. It's got that built-in extra zoom, extra range, based on its 13 zoom value, and it's just very consistent, and people have really loved it. Well, now we have a kinetic version of it, and a couple of distinctions to make. This is going to be a premier PvP sidearm. It's not going to be a premier PvE sidearm, I don't think. Okay, I'm not a PvE extraordinaire, but looking at the perks here, you've got some decent stuff, but nothing about this is going to make it a standout primary weapon for PvE when you have things like, your Volt Shot primaries out there that can melt entire waves of people, or your volatile rounds, primary weapons that are melting entire waves of ads. This doesn't have anything like that going for it. Okay, you've got kinetic tremors there. You've got Vorpal. You've got 4 times the charm. There's some things here, overflow. There's some things here that could make it okay. Overflow and kinetic tremors just for continually spamming, those kinetic tremors in an AoE. That could be useful, I think. But overall, there's nothing about it in terms of PvE that makes it a standout or premier weapon. But it's definitely going to be a premier PvP kinetic weapon. It's going to be a great dueler. A couple of distinctions to make here. Let's compare it to Drang, because everybody's going to compare it to Drang. You might say, hey, with TV, that's in a different slot. Everyone's going to compare it to the premier weapon of its family, right? That's just what we do. So, Buzzard to Drang. They're both adaptive frames. So that means they're potentially a 4-tap, 0.6 second optimal TTK if you're hitting all crits. So we want to have good range, good accuracy cones, good aim assist values. Those are the things that are going to help us get those consistent 4 taps to melt people in PvP. Let's talk about that. In terms of base range, Drang has 35, the Buzzard has 36. Basically the same. TV, wait, Drang has more zoom. You're absolutely right. Drang has that built-in extra range with the 13 zoom, which makes its damage drop-off, damage fall-off here, 16.59 meters when ADS'd. Let's come back to the Buzzard. The Buzzard has 15.32, so you're losing out on, a whole meter and some change. But look at this. In the second column, you've got rangefinder on the Buzzard. It's going to give you that extra zoom, and it's a 10% zoom buff, and then in addition, you've got the 1 extra range. So now you're looking at 16.86 meters before experiencing damage drop-off compared to Drang's 16.59. Yes, you do have to use a perk slot to do that, but non-negotiable in my opinion. If you're looking for a PvP role, you need rangefinder on this thing, because that's going to help it really compete, especially in a sandbox where SMGs are as powerful as they are and have as much reach as they do. You want that range. Now let's continue with our comparison here. You've got 67 stability at base on the Buzzard compared to 60 base on the Drang. That's nothing to sniff at. That's a 7 stability difference. That's great. The Buzzard has less handling. That's where it is noticeably worse than the Drang. It's 20 less, 21 less, which is a lot. Can't overlook that. Same reload speeds, but here's a big difference. Okay, we're losing some handling, but we have a considerable amount of more stability. With rangefinder, we have basically the same, if not more, range than our Drang. But then, like I said, if you want those crispy 4 taps, you need your aim assist values to be higher. And look what we've got here on the Buzzard. 89. 89 aim assist. The Drang, 70. That's almost a difference of 20 aim assist. And a lot of people with Drang, they use things like moving target to help buff the aim assist value to help with the consistency. So here we've got the Buzzard, and we're losing a perk slot to get rangefinder to bring it up to Drang's level. And on Drang, we're using a perk slot on moving target to bring it up to the Buzzard's level of aim assist. So it's a bit of a give and take here. But yeah, almost 20 more AA is huge. I would take that trade-off. I'd lose some handling and gain a bunch of aim assist, I think, every time. Other thing, recoil, 94, basically perfectly vertical on the Buzzard. Drang is 80. It pulls a little bit up to the right. So that recoil direction is much nicer on the Buzzard by quite a bit. Slightly smaller mag size on the Buzzard at 15 compared to 18. But you can see here the distinctions we're making. It's not competing with Drang in the same energy slot. It's in a different slot. But if you are like, hey, I want to run sniper sidearm, pulse sidearm, whatever it may be, bow sidearm, whatever strikes your fancy, you now have a gun that's going to make you reconsider that mandatory choice of running Drang. For a lot of people, it's like Drang or bust. If you're not a sidearm enthusiast and you don't like a lot of what the other sidearms have to offer, you're like, no, I just want something that feels like a pocket hand cannon, so I go with Drang every time. Hey, now you have another credible option here. But now let's start building the Buzzard, and you're going to see how this thing is going to become a monster dueler. We don't have to correct the recoil direction, so we don't need arrowhead brake or anything like that, or chambered compensator in order to bring that recoil direction in line. We're fine there. You could do corkscrew rifling for stability, range, and handling. Corkscrew, I think, would be a great choice here. It's not going to give you, plus 10 to anything like some of the other barrels like Hammer Forge is going to do, but what it is going to do is it's going to only buff the gun. If there's no drawbacks to corkscrew. And it's going to give us the range and stability, which are always very important, but it's also going to help compensate for the lack of handling on the gun by giving us a slight boost there as well. So I think for my personal preference, I would go with corkscrew, but you really can't go wrong with Hammer Forge or small bore either for plus 7 to both. But I think I would go with plus 5 to both range and stability and take a little extra handling with corkscrew personally. If you want to go full range or just full sending on the range, and I'll show you what that build looks like later, but you got Hammer Forge there. Obviously, we got ricochet rounds, 5 range, 10 stability, great option. You got the range masterwork for 10 more range. When you get the adept version, you could even push it out another 10 with adept range. Now you're looking at 66 base range. Your damage drop off, 18 meters on a sidearm. That's very good. If you went with hammer forged, you're looking at a little bit more, 18.24. Now we don't have adept range on a Drang, so we got to run other stuff. So let's build our Drang for range. Hammer forged, accurized rounds. Okay, nothing in the perks here are going to increase the effective range. There's no range perks here. You know, moving target, Zen moment, whatever. So we're looking at 17.76 if we full build our Drang for range. 17.76 before we experience damage drop off. That is including the built-in extra range with the zoom value on Drang. Buzzard. Let's full send for range. What are we looking at here? So we full send for range. We've got 18.24 meters before experiencing damage drop off. So you're looking at a whole half a meter more. Half a meter more range on your Buzzard. Half a meter when you're in CQC matters. It does. It's nothing to sniff at. So the Buzzard can outrange Drang. That's one major takeaway here, is that the Buzzard can outrange Drang. You build Drang fully for range, it can't compete with the Buzzard's range. So the ceiling is higher. But then, here's the kicker. We're going to push this even further, okay? Even further. Let's go with Encore, okay? Encore's got a lot going for it. Encore had recent buffs, so it's a little less confusing now. If you get a body shot kill, you get 1 stack of Encore. If you get a headshot kill, you get 2 stacks of Encore. Every stack of Encore is going to give you plus 5 range, plus 8 stability, and gonna buff your accuracy cone. Okay, so we are after those crispy 4-tap kills, right? That 0.6 second optimal TTK. We want to hit it, and we want to hit it frequently. Without Encore, this thing's already a banger of a dueling gun, arguably better than Drang. But now we're going to add Encore to it. Let's say we get a kill. Now, we're looking at 76 range. Let's say our kill is a headshot kill. Then we get 2 stacks of Encore. We're looking at 81 range. When we have 4 stacks of Encore, we're looking at 91 range. You get 2 headshot kills. Now you've got 7 seconds to run around, which is a very generous timer, by the way. You got 7 seconds of Encore to run around with 91 range. You are now looking at almost 20 meters of range on a sidearm. Are you kidding me? This is going to be a banger of a dueling gun in PvP. A banger. So ultimately the takeaway here, if you remember nothing else, just remember this. The Buzzard is adept. It can take adept mods. It can outrange Drang. And it's going to be really freaking good in PvP. Do me a favor. Get one of these. Get one this week. You may find that in a few weeks when the adept version of this gun is available. Maybe you can't get a team together. Maybe you aren't able to get one to drop. At the very minimum, just get 1 drop this week. And then anytime this season, you can go to Zavala, focus a drop. It won't be able to take adept mods, but it will still have the potential to be an absolute banger sidearm in PvP, even without the adept mods on top of it. So there you have it. That's the Buzzard. Get one, thank me later, or thank me now, or don't thank me at all. I didn't do anything for you. I just made a video. Whatever. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked it. Feel free to subscribe for additional Destiny 2 content. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible. Bye-bye.